gonna go ahead and get started because I'm assuming you all are gonna have a lot of questions for these two. So we'll jump in and get started. We're gonna start with Dr. Ruben Anthony.
I'm Ruben Anthony, the president and CEO of the Urban League of Greater Madison. And first, I'd like to thank my colleague, Dr. Reverend Alex G., the Nehemiah Foundation, the Center of Black Excellence, and all of those entities that have helped do the work and move his work forward. I'm so proud to be a part of this event today, proud of the work that you've done in this community, proud of the fact that you had the boldness to bring justified anger forward, and that has led to many successes in this community. So thank you for your dedication and thank you for the work. You know, when I think about this community, our focus is on helping kids and helping families. And you heard Ray Allen mention in the video, there's nothing like a good paying job. A good paying job can get a lot of things done. So we always think that, you know, if you teach somebody how to fish rather than giving them a fish, that makes a big difference in the world. And I do truly believe that our workforce development programs does just that. It provides them with the skill sets that they need. And we are all over the spectrum in terms of building workforce partnerships. When I started with the Urban League, one of the goals that the board strapped on me was that I would create 2,000 jobs. And you know, when you're interviewing for jobs, you just say, yeah. Not realizing how daunting of a task that was, but we were able to accomplish that a few years ago. And we were able to do that because we had partnerships with entities like True Stage and other folks that really kind of helped us along the way. So we focused on the demand-driven workforce development program. Rather than just doing programs because we always did programs, I wanted to focus on programs that were relevant in the marketplace. If someone came through one of our training programs, I wanted there to be a high probability that they were going to find a job. And so you saw in the video, we were working hand in hand with Exact Sciences. We've had 12 cohorts with Exact Sciences, and they've hired 94%, you know, of the cohorts. Wow. We create that type of So we create that type of expectation that we're not going to partner with an industry unless we know that they have a commitment to put people in the job. And so the trades has been one of our sweet spots. Education has been one of our sweet spots. Healthcare, and just all of these other industries that are really, we're finding hot opportunities in. So the mission of the Urban League is to help, you know, African American and people of color with economy and to get rid of the disparities and those sorts of things. But we don't only help African Americans, we help any family or anybody that's in need. We have a home ownership program, you know, where we believe that home ownership is one of those things that's built into the American dream. You know, if you want to create generational wealth, home ownership is one of those ways to make it happen. One of the things that we do at the Urban League is we look at the disparities. We look at the disparities in home ownership, for example. Across the nation right now, white families are 75 to 76% homeowners. African Americans are 45, 46% homeowners. That's a disparity that we need to close, and we work hard every day to try to make a difference there. On a statewide level, Wisconsin has 72% homeowners for whites, 26% homeowners for African Americans. But if you look at Dane County, we really have a problem because African Americans only have 10% of home ownership here. So this is the work that we want to make progress on. When Dr. G, you know, talked about disparities and changes that have to happen, this is one of those areas that we need to do some work on. And so we've done quite a bit in the area of making sure that we use home ownership as a wealth building venue. So prior to me coming, the Urban League had purchased 57 homes, and they used new market tax credits to put families into these homes. The new market tax credit program, people had to work to be in a home for 15 years before they became homeowners. When I came in, I switched and we started using new market tax credits. New market tax credits, they became homeowners on day one. And it's a 7-year program. We act as the bankers, and they would have to stay in financing with us for 7 years and refinance after 7 years. But they only paid interest only for those 7 years. And so since they only paid interest only, there's some extra money there in the family. So we asked that they put it into a maintenance/wealth building account, and that builds up. All these homes, we purchased 16 homes and we remodeled those homes, and all of the equity from the remodel we give to the families. And then when 7 years come up, when they refinance, they got our equity, got the natural equity from the home, plus they got the wealth building account. This is what we're talking about when we talk about creating generational wealth. We have to be intentional about creating opportunities for families to have wealth. With home ownership, families have the ability to use their equity to send kids to college, to start businesses, to help them with their retirements. And that's what we're doing. We're pinpoint focused on making sure that we're building wealth. So the other thing that I want to talk to you about is creating an ecosystem that will help minority businesses develop. And again, we did surveys and meetings with the community to ask the community what things that they need to see happen. And we had an outreach program called the Agenda South. And with the Agenda South, we talked to lots of people for many months to say, what do you need? And a lot of folks raised their hand and said, we need an opportunity to start Black businesses or businesses in general. And that's what we're helping with this Black Business Hub. The Black Business Hub, again, will be one of the region's premier Black enterprise centers devoted to incubating, accelerating, and networking with small businesses and aspiring entrepreneurs. When I talked to Zach Brandon from the chamber in Madison, he said, this is the missing piece, not just on South Park Street, but he said, this is the missing piece in the region, and it has played out to be that. So we broke ground. It was a very cold day on April 2022, and about 400 people came out, to help celebrate on this idea. And we've had this type of support from the start of the program throughout the program. And if we would not have had Justified Anger and other initiatives come forward, this would not have been possible. So we stand on the shoulders of the great leaders that came before us and really kind of created this type of environment for us. Again, you can see, I couldn't find the picture. I couldn't get the picture to fit in of you and I shoveling, because I looked for that last night and then I ran out of time because I had to get back over here to where you guys were. But we had lots of folks from the community to come out. And so and then we had our grand opening of the hub this summer. We had lots of people come out. We had about 2,000 people to come out and support us. We kind of combined it with our Unity Picnic. We began to do focus on partnering with Generator. Lauren is in the audience today, one of our partners from Generator, Lauren Usher. And this has turned into an amazing partnership where we offer G Alpha courses and G Beta courses, 2 different levels of small business development courses. And we're on our 4th cohort for the G Alpha, and I think our 3rd cohort for G Beta. So we've run hundreds of businesses already through this program. This is our G Beta course. We expect to create over 200 businesses in the Black Business Hub and generate over $3 million in revenue collectively across these businesses. But let me just say this. When we looked at whether this was a real issue or not, we discovered that there are there's 10,000 businesses in Dane County, and 0.4% of those businesses are African American, 0.4% of those businesses that have one or more employees. And so that was the statistic that we were trying to change. And let me just tell you already some of the numbers that we have in the Black Business Hub. This was the right thing to do for this community because already we have over 50 minority-owned businesses operating within the hub. We have 39 businesses that are on our fourth floor in our co-working spaces. We have 9 shops that are set to be open in the next couple of weeks, from a barbershop to podcasting business, beauty school, coffee shop, wine and cupcakes. We've got 3 eateries coming in there, and we have 3 commercial kitchens in the business. This is what we call Black economic development that's really having an immediate impact. And I'm sure the Center of Black Excellence is going to have an equal or even more impact than we have now. We have over 60 businesses participating in our pop-up shop. And so we are just getting started. So I want to stop there to be gracious to my host because, preachers, they go a long time, so he needs way more runway than I do. But anyway, thank you for being here today.
Can we show that video?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Here's just going to show a video that talks about the work of the Center for Black Excellence and Culture before we start.
That's dope.
Good afternoon, everyone.
No.
Can you all hear me all right? Should I use? Can you hear me all right? It's really great to be able to be here today and to, thank you, to talk with you all. I'm proud and elated beyond words just to see the great work that my team is doing, and particularly in bringing the broader community together. So this is really, really great. I want to tell a little story before we move into the Q&A. I'm so proud to be a part of the renaissance that's happening in South Madison. I personally grew up in South Madison. So the idea that this kind of development is taking place is really, really amazing. When you consider the work of the hub, the work of the center, and then the work that Karen is doing at Centro, those combined are over $100 million of development that's happening right in South Madison. And having grown up in our community, we would have never imagined that those kinds of dollars would be attracted to our community by leaders who really love the community and want to give back to us. So I just want to applaud my colleague, Dr. Ruben Anthony, and Karen Collier, who's not here. Just for the work that we're doing. It's interesting. While we're all building, we're in the hunt for money for building, we would do panels together. So Ruben and Karen and I would sit in the panel and say, all right, whose turn is it to tell the audience that we're not feud? Whose turn is like, I told them last time, so now it's your turn. So it's funny how we would always be prepared to address that question. One of the things that's really interesting, and Dr. Anthony will remember this, is that he said, I want you to come with me to Milwaukee to see something. He wanted me to see Sherman Phoenix. And it's a former bank, I believe, that's just been renovated, and they have meeting spaces and places where you can buy incense and jewelry, and there were eateries and all kinds of barbershops. I was floored when I went there. But the beautiful thing is, Ruben, did you drive? Was that you? I think you drove. So Ruben, Kaleem, and I got in a car together. And Ruben's an invitation to go check out this place. We all left with 3 different visions. And so I started moving towards the work of the center. And again, just for the record, so people understand, Ruben will call me and say, I think as a takeaway from Sherman Phoenix, we're going to really focus on economic development and incubator. Is that stuff that you're going to work on? So we think we're going to really focus on culture. We'll do some leadership stuff because that's part of my doctoral work. I want to focus on that. But we had clear discussions, sort of like the Pixar team, like, okay, we're going to do Toy Story first, then we're going to do Cars. I'm in the order wrong, but you get what I'm saying. We sat down, but we left that car inspired. We went to see an incubator in the old Nunn Bush shoe place in Milwaukee. But we were inspired together to make our city feel better and look better and be accessible for everyone. So when you drive by and see the excellence in our community, and if anyone happens to ask you if we are in competition with each other, you need to understand we were all inspired at different stages along the way, but we all saw Sherman Phoenix and took a piece of that. And Clean focused on education. We focused on cultural revitalization and the wellness that results from that, and centering ARC and Black excellence, and Ruben with leadership development. And it's just nice to know that our programs and that our work are really synergistic with each other. That piece is really, really important. I have just a few slides that I want to show because the focus of our work is not necessarily economic development per se, but for the Black individuals and families that leave Madison, because just the environment is toxic enough to be an impediment to our wellness and our health, I want to just offer that when Black families don't stay here, we take our money with us. We don't leave our bank accounts here and then we move someplace else. We take that home buying power, wealth generating power, we take that with us. The assumption might be that people are leaving Madison because they can't handle the rigor of Madison Metropolitan School District. That's what we said back in the 70s, when we started seeing the beginning of disparities and we asked questions. As a kid growing up here, we blamed it on the rigor of the school district, that kids from Chicago, Milwaukee can't handle Madison. So that's why people are leaving, but people couldn't find work The people that are leaving Madison are the people who can afford to leave Madison. And they're not leaving Madison because they can't get bus vouchers and because they can't get free tickets to Overture. That's not why Black people are leaving. Black people are leaving because of the toxicity that I talked about earlier, because of some of the unspoken hostility, and about some of the help that really hurts here in the community. And so our approach is that we want to address the sense of belonging. We're working real closely with Dr. Richie Davidson at the Center for Healthy Minds, and we're actually working together on a major proposal because they're committed to helping us to raise money for a chief research officer that's going to help engage in Black researchers and Black community-based leaders to develop solutions to issues that we want to study, and not just a plethora of materials explaining how we die more quickly than our white counterparts. And one of the pieces that we just recently put together, he did the research, but I get to quote it, is that when Black families flourish, we are not as prone to degenerative diseases as those who don't. Because the thought is, if you're Black in Madison and you're struggling with degenerative diseases, hypertension, diabetes, both of which are sort of precursors to dementia, unfortunately. And we know who leads in diabetes and hypertension, so we know why people are leading, why we're leading in dementia. But we have to be able to address those issues and find out what those are attributed to. Well, we have found that racial battle fatigue, things that you heard Dr. Reese talk about, some of the struggles of being Black and brown and swimming upstream in waters that are predominantly white, it causes a physiological reaction that thwarts our growth. It's all known as a part of the social determinants of health discussion. We have to find a way to undo that if we're going to help Black people to want to live here. And so when we started presenting our concept after listening to hundreds of Black folks who have talked about what they need, what they said is, we want to feel at home. We want spaces that we had in St. Louis, Chicago, and Milwaukee. We want to have those spaces where we can do those things and we can enjoy those things. Because Black folks, my colleagues, are traveling around the country for entertainment. We'll go to New York, we'll go to Chicago. A group of us got in a van and went to Beloit, of all places, because the winner of Comic View at that time, Damon Williams, was performing in Beloit. He would come to Beloit in it was like a basement of a bar, but wouldn't come to Madison at the time. And everybody who watched BET knew who he was, but he would come there, but not Madison. I started realizing, what is it about Madison that we can't retain people we have, and we can't attract the people that we want to have here? So as we listen, we realize that people really want to feel this space, this energy of being connectedness, space, this sense of connection. Let me state this, too, because I'm often asked this. It's not as if when we are in predominantly white spaces, we feel afraid. It's not as if we feel you're going to all come and get me in the corner. But when I see my culture, people in leadership reflecting me, who can look at me, who can identify with me, can relate to me, it brings a sense of relief. It allows you to relax a little bit. It helps you to know that someone gets you before you say anything. And the space, what that space offers is almost magical. And I didn't realize that I lacked it by growing up in Madison, because I've always been fairly accepted. I was always one of two children who were Black in school. So I learned how to do Madison. But it was when I was an undergraduate recruiter at UW-Madison and I was given Detroit. And I walked into a mall in Detroit, South Ridge or North, one of them ridges. Everybody was Black. I stopped in the middle of the mall and I said, I'm going to go to Allstate because I know I'm going to see some white people at Allstate. Ran down the mall, everybody's Black, Asian, and customers. I said, if I was a geek, I'm going to go to Radio Shack because I know we're going to see some diversity in Radio Shack. Everybody in Radio Shack was Black, working and shopping. And I said, I get my brother-in-law now. He was raised in Detroit. I get him now. He talks about Madison because standing in the middle of that mall, I felt like I was like in a Tom Cruise movie or something. Like I'm standing still, everybody else is moving. I realized there's something that I feel here, an unspoken acceptance that helps me to believe I can thrive and that I can do anything that I'm seeing. So we want to bring part of that to Madison. we're able to secure. So our contribution to economic development is that we want to make sure that as Black families move here, they believe that they can thrive, that children can thrive, that they can see themselves, experience those who look like them and think like them unapologetically, and where excellence is not something we offer people, we cultivate it. We instigate it because it's within them. We're fortunate enough to partner with JLA Architects, and our lead architect on this is Rafiq Assad, who designed our building. He designed the hub. He designed One City, its remodel, and has brought this different sensibilities, this Black aesthetic and culture and colors and warmth, because not only did we want it to appear beautiful, but we want it to feel beautiful. My experience growing up in Madison is that I imagine, this is the analogy I use, you go to your grandmother's house or an older relative, and you see everyone else's picture except yours. And then over the years, you think, okay, maybe the frame dropped, maybe it broke, maybe my parents didn't send the picture to grandma. Then after a while, you never see it. You're like, oh, does someone want to have a conversation with me? Is there something I should know? Everyone else's picture is here. Everyone else's work is on the refrigerator but mine. You start asking questions. Growing up Black in Madison, it's like being at your grandmother's house and never seeing your picture. You might see someone that looks kind of like you, but they're working. They're not living, not thriving, not flourishing. And I wanted a space where people felt like they could see themselves. And so what we're really digging into is a sense of belonging and wellness, because the science is out there, the information is out there that when we feel like we belong, when we can connect, we have health outcomes that are much, much better. And who would have thought it? That would have such an impact on us. The narrative out there is that Black people struggle with degenerative diseases because we don't have health care. That's not the case. Or that we don't go in for regular checkups. That's not the case. I have colleagues who are my fraternity brothers who don't like to go to their doctors, and they are retired from state government and they have good state benefits. They don't think their doctors listen to them. I can name you a half dozen Black women in our congregation who are part of two breadwinning individuals in their homes, good benefits, who've either lost babies prematurely, had stillbirth instances, or just had premature babies like my wife and I did twice, who only lived about a half hour after birth each. We have insurance, we have education, we have access, we go to annual exams. That all flies in the face of what the narrative is as to why Black people aren't thriving. Comes down to some of the same things. Stress. The stress that happens between Black women and non-Black bosses who women or men, but a lot of times it's even extra that Black women have told me when it's white women that they work for. That there are issues that are here that are prevalent that we don't talk about that contribute. And it's not that we don't have insurance. We don't have community. We don't have enough representation. And so we want to help people live longer lives, spend money in Madison, live in Madison, invest in Madison because they belong. In 2019, I was part of the Return to Africa that National NAACP put together. About 300 of us across the country went to Ghana and spent time in West Africa. But after seeing our culture, tasting foods that reminded us of things that our grandmothers cooked, seeing relatives that look just like Black Americans, because we were taken from West Africa. So of course there would be lots of similar features. After we felt at home, some of the leaders said, we want you Black Americans to buy property here. So like, you all would want us to buy property here? Yeah, we want you to vacation here. You retire in Hawaii, the Caribbean, we want you to think about it here. But they waited until we felt at home. They waited until they knew we understood. There was a word that they used, akwaba, which in Ghanaian is welcome. They sang it to us. They danced it. It was on signs. It was on posters. We were on the news. But once we felt at home, we were ready to invest. We were ready to. Listen, I'm having discussions right now as we speak about dual citizenship. But there was such a sense of belonging. And I just imagine, what would my world be like if every day it's like black, 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 black. But the reinforcement, it makes me want to take a look at things. So I'm talking to realtors. I'm talking to friends who have land. I'm talking about parceling. I'm talking about these things. I've got friends who have family members who live in Sierra Leone and they're African American. But once you feel that it's home, you want to invest. Our contribution to economic development is that when people feel like they're home in Madison, that their kids can meet and see Black doctors and scientists and professors and administrators and philanthropists, people that give money. Yeah, that's right. That they will want to invest. And my mom had that hope, which is why she bought property here. She paid cash for my sister and I to attend the university. She gave me my loan so my wife and I could buy our home. That investment came because she believed that this was good for me, for the family, for her grandchildren, and her legacy. Things changed that she didn't foresee, that I didn't foresee. So I'm trying to reclaim that sense for myself, which is happening, but for others as well. It's not that difficult. Black people are not leaving because we don't have enough DEI training. Like I told you in my speech, we were excellent before DEI. We're about to show y'all again. Show them again. But belonging is so important. This is one of the highlights of my career. When we broke ground last year for the center, the Black community came out. I was so taken aback that I got up on the chair and said, hey, I want all the Black people to come up front and take a family reunion picture. And folks came up and we did, because there was such a sense of community and togetherness, and that people celebrated the fact that we have the audacity to build space that'll be unapologetically Black. We know that the benefit, the residual effect, would be a benefit for the whole community. And there's space inside here for our non-Black friends to come. Of course, we want you to come to our lectures and our lecture series from UW professors and film festivals and book festivals and our gather. Of course, we want the broader community to come to see our space and our art and our galleries, but there will be space for Black innovation and Black thought leaders and Black creativity so that we can work together very closely together, because there's an energy that comes when we don't code switch, we don't apologize, we accept who we are, and we're able to lean into that. So this will be space where we get to be that individual, we get to be that community in segments of the space that won't be open to the public. But at the same time, we want the broader community to hear our comics, to hear our stories, to watch our dance troupes that will come from all over the region and all over the nation to help tell the story, because storytelling is a part of healing. Storytelling is a part of connecting. So in addition to having a gallery here, there's also 2 maker spaces in the lower level where people can come and work. There's one for youth and one for adults. We have 2 theaters. This is the major theater that will have dressing room, green room, and it's not a big box that's retrofitted with speakers. It's an actual theater that's been constructed. Then we have a black box theater space that's painted white, so they can also be used for parties and receptions and gathering. We're working closely with the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra because we want our children to learn chamber music, for dance, for gatherings, for receptions, for parties, retirement parties. And so there's 2 theaters, 2 maker spaces. We'll have senior and intergenerational space, a youth library that's here that will have the works that my daughter longed to find when she was a kid. She was a voracious reader, but had difficulty finding books by Afrofuturists. Particularly those written by women. She wanted to be able to find those things. This will make it so much easier for those things to happen in other cultural and gathering spaces. We've just had lots of support from across the community, from folks who just wanted to see us thrive and work in the space. I think I just wanted to pause right there because I didn't want to go into too much depth. But again, our focus is that economic development is so important that we think it's how we get people to reconsider this community. We focused on Black excellence and not African-American excellence because we want to make this Pan-African. And so our partners will be members of the local African associations, the Caribbean associations. It is not just for Madison and Dane County. We are connecting with Black communities around the state, elected official, business leaders, nonprofit leaders, so that this becomes a place that we create think tanks. We plan together. We help to set agendas together that further our success in this state. There will be cross-cultural gatherings where our children will learn about their African culture and heritage. I'm working with Dr. Gina Page, who owns AfricanAncestry.com, because we want to help to connect Blacks from Wisconsin with their African roots, so we can set up trips to look at exploration of buying property, starting businesses, investing in the motherland. And so we're doing things that we wanted to do, but haven't always known how to do. And we didn't want to do it alone. And so culture is very broad for us. It's not just music and art and dance, but it's how we live our lives. It's how we interact, and it's how we bequeath our strength to the next generation. And this is our approach to partner, because we know that as business leaders are being developed at the hub, those folks are going to need networks as well. We want to provide the networks for those businesses. You can have a great business and not have networks. We want them to have that, as well as a place to go and belong. And so they complement each other. And yeah, with that, I'll just pause, because I think we move into a session where we do some Q&A, but thank you all.
All right, any questions? Well, I know there are questions. So who has the question? Would like to go first for either Dr. Ruben Anthony or Dr. Alice G? Oh, yes, please.
So I work for Dane County, and the county and city, the government jobs are great jobs, lots of benefits and great pay. I'm wondering if you guys see any leverage points for employment with government from your point of view.
Yeah, so we actually have training programs with Dane County right now, particularly on the highway side. So we've probably hosted maybe 10 cohorts with Dane County now. Dane County highway construction is the hardest area to break brown and Black people into. But we have right now an internship program, and we have about 5 or 6 members from the Latino community and the African American community that does the internship. And after the program, they get hired. There's a high percentage that high probability that they get hired by Dane County. And so we've done that for at least 8 years.
Go ahead. Yeah, why is it hard to integrate Blacks into the transportation? Is it a union issue, or is it prejudice, or?
It's a prejudice and union, yeah, and more.
Yes.
That was my exact question.
Oh, okay, excellent. Pretty much, please, good.
This may seem like a stupid question. However, while you were talking, you mentioned the fact that you went to a community and there were only 2 Black people among the variety of whites. And then you went to another community where everyone you saw was Black and you felt more comfortable. How is that different from segregation? Here you have the opportunity to choose to relate only to Black people in a community that's predominantly Black, versus you have the option to go somewhere and go elsewhere where the majority is white. Clarify, please.
Sure. When I talk about being 2, I was talking about my classroom as a kid growing up. So not going to a community, it was actually my classroom. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, where I was only 2 of Black. But the difference is segregation was imposed legally. Black people never wanted to ever stop being around Black people. Our push was so that we would not be shot for voting, raped for voting, killed for having our kids read, but we want to come back to be around Black people because there's a sense of comfort in doing that. We never wanted to be sucked out of our community and absorbed in suburban America where it was inappropriate or illegal to talk about ourselves. That's the way integration played out. When Jackie Robinson left the Negro Baseball League, as it was called, to go into the Major League, within 5 years, the Negro League crumbled. When Michael Jordan left the NBA, it was beginning to crumble. So my point is, when we're together, we thrive. We don't have to apologize. That's not segregation. We've always lived together in America until we're able to work and live in other places. We've always cherished that. But what happened is that as we progressed, either our businesses crumbled or like in Black Wall Street, they were burned down, shot by US government from the air. Schools were bulldozed, leaders were killed, so that our places that built wealth were destroyed. So when Black people want to be around Black people, it doesn't fly into integration because this is Madison. I got to still work around white folks. I go to the DOT, go to restaurants, go to my doctor. I still have that interaction. But there's a part of my life that I have missed growing and thriving because when we live in a community, white people move out and they take their tax base and they take their dollars. This is documented historically, sociologically, which means our streets don't get fixed. Our street lights don't get changed. Our schools become demoralized. It looks as if Black people move into the community and we eat the streets, they get destroyed, when in fact, those dollars leave and those communities are not serviced. And then that's seen as a Black community. And so when we want to be around ourselves, it's because we want to live. It's being Black in white spaces that contributes to my degenerative health issues. And when I went to that community and saw Black people, it wasn't a matter of feeling safe because I feel safe in Madison. But intellectually, culturally, physiologically, I felt safe because I feel like I didn't have to code switch or become someone else. It was just assumed that I was intelligent. It was just assumed that I was strong. It was just assumed. And in that space, no one calls me articulate, wants to touch my hair, or is in awe that I can write. I was playing tennis one day with a gentleman. He's a physician. And he said, hey, for UW, hey, I saw that you got a prestigious alumni award. I said, yeah. He said, did you go to UW-Madison? I said, that's kind of how alumni awards work. You have to explain that around Black people. If you get an alumni award from someplace, it's not because you're philanthropic, because you matriculated from that institution. All of those things, day in and day out, are what makes us long for space that attributes to our life.
So I want to say something about that as well. So I went to Marquette University as an undergrad, and a lot of times I found myself being the only Black person in the class. Not one time did a teacher ever say that you were good, or that, you had special skills. Following that, I did a master's degree at Jackson State University, a historically Black college. Mm-hmm. From day one, the professors took interest in me. And not long in that semester, they said, well, you're real smart in computer science. Did you know that you had this gift? But they also held me accountable. I was going to my first job interview, and this is simple, but I showed up, I had a white shirt on, had a tie on, but I didn't have an undershirt on under my shirt. And I was like, okay, it was hot in Mississippi. And so one of the professors, she pulled me to the side. She said, go home, put on an undershirt, then you go to the interview. But they cared about you that much that, they would even take a personal, stake in you and make sure that you understood where your deficits were and where your strong points were. And I suspect that happens with all groups. You want to take care of the folks that you look most alike or that you feel most comfortable with. Right.
Yeah, this one, and then we'll come. Thank you. Michael Andrews. Just want to say thank you both for your leadership and courage and passion, because it takes all those three. I'm going to throw you a zinger. I hope you don't get mad at me for asking you a tough question. But can we articulate a way in which all this focus on Black business and Black culture will actually benefit the white population of Madison?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Oh, yeah. I said, is there a way in which we could articulate? First, I apologize for the tough question.
It's not tough.
But I asked, is there a way in which we can articulate where the improvement in Black business and Black culture actually is a benefit to the white population?
Yeah, let me take that one.
Yeah, I would say I'm not even sure.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
So first,
No.
Dr. Idris.
Yes.
So you probably know better than anyone else. If you look at the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program per se. That's a program that people think that's for Black business owners. 80% of that program benefits white women in this state. Okay, and so that's a clear example of how things that you think that should be benefiting, African Americans, it benefits the broader community. When you improve businesses here in the state, when you put someone to work or give someone an income, the community as a whole benefits from that. It's a better place. It's a safer place. If someone doesn't have a job or doesn't have an income, it's a more dangerous place because people have to eat. So
That's true. And I will say, and I think it's a great question. So I just answer it slightly different in a different way. I'm doing what I'm doing because I want Black people to live, period. If it, should it, may it help others, that's icing on the cake. But even if it didn't, my commitment is I'm tired of bearing my colleagues who have the same diseases and the same medical treatment, yet they die more prematurely. I need to stop that. And if I leave by saying, hey, it'll help the broader community, then people will introduce me as Alex G, who's doing stuff for the Black community to help all of Madison. Madison's got to be smart enough to understand that when we thrive, others will thrive. We are the yellow canaries in the mine. That if we do well, everyone can do well. But the reason why I'm doing it is so that I can help Black people thrive.
Thank you for your answer.
Sure, good question.
A comment and then a question. Your description of what it felt like to be in an all-Black space, it reminded me of I participated in a 12-step program, and when I first went into that and was in a place where people got what my issue was, it was such a relief. So it's like
Sure.
I can relate to that, and I think a lot of people can relate to that when they think about it that way. My question is, what are some explicit values or aspects of Black culture that are different than white culture that are explicitly good that could be that you would identify as uniquely African American or uniquely Black that
Specifically to culture?
yeah, specifically to culture. And as an example, like people think of Hispanic culture as being very family friendly. That's just one example, but like are there things like that you guys identify in the Black culture?
Sure. I mean, typically African Americans have held within the construct of Western worldviews a more communal worldview, where it's why if we're in a place, but if I'm sitting in a place like this, I'm not at home, and I see a sister sitting, a brother, at some point I'm gonna make eye contact. Is it you good? Like so part of it is I feel a connection no matter where I am. If I'm walking down the street and somebody is having a rough time, I'll be like, hey, you good? You okay? I need to. So I think part of it is that, and that's just some people say, well, that's just general kindness, but I do it because they're Black. I feel they're out here by themselves. Something's going on. No one's not hearing. That's it. With more of the performative culture, it's who tells the story. So who writes the story? Who writes the narrative? Who writes the song? Who creates the poem? Who paints the picture? Who turns the acrylics into life? It's the pain. It's the swag. It's the soulness in it. It's in the cooking. It's flavored and peppered with a sense of I've been to hell and back, and I'll go to hell and back for the sake of my kids and my culture, but I'm still here. That's what makes it unique. And we don't start with the one. This is one of the things parents said to us when we asked, "What do you want for your children in our community?" Because we like to study everything. They said we want our children to be seen as leaders to be developed and not problems to be fixed. The difference with the Black worldview is you got something good, we're going to find out you got something good, we're going to figure out what it is, we're going to capitalize on it. In other places, we have to always adjust. I've got a friend who is a brilliant pediatrician. She said this publicly, so I can repeat it, Dr. Jasmine Zapata. But she will walk in a room and people will think she's a CNA. CNAs don't wear white smocks with their names on it with stethoscopes around their necks. And even if we did think someone in Black worldview, if someone was a CNA, they're probably gonna come closer to wiping my backside than my doctor, so we're gonna treat them well.
Yes.
The disregard with which folks are treated in that pecking order is horrible. So it's all of those things that when it's culture, we're not trying to fix people. We see folks for who they are and what they bring, and our job is to call it out. We don't think anyone is disposable. And if given the chance, we would bring that to bear on the larger community and could help to redeem a lot of people. But we're often in jobs, we're relegated to only serving Black people because people think that all we can do is speak Ebonics and talk to Black people. We have a lot to bring to the table if people believe that we have that ability.
Thank you very much.
Sure, great
We have
question.
time for one more question. Put this in yours.
One of my closest colleagues when I was working some time ago, long time ago, was Ernie Green. Ernie Green was one of the Little Rock Nine. And I had the good fortune of meeting him and was working with him. He was the first person to lead the affirmative action in the construction industry, right? During the Jimmy Carter administration. And anyway, we shared some great times, but one of the things he said to me that was one of the most painful things that he had to endure was when in his communities, they would just wipe out the Black cemeteries. They would basically just remove them, not ask anybody, just remove them. And he said it took them years and years to overcome that. And it's just another example that I had no idea about, and it's still happening, I think. But anyway, I just wanted to tell you that story.
So that's interesting. When I was in graduate school, my grandfather's brother passed away, and so we went to a cemetery, we buried him, and maybe 30 years later, I go looking for that cemetery because it's the same cemetery that my great-grandfather's is in, my uncles and all our family members are there. And it's all new houses and stuff over there. And I'm like, wait a minute. You know, I remember it was like a big space. I said, nobody ever called and said that they were going to move bodies and stuff. So I called an aunt down there too. And she said, yeah, I can't find my father's grave either because, and I was like, I know both of those graves were there because I went to both of the funerals. And I'm like, so that still happens. And you know, we get disrespected, you know, in ways like that hurt, you know, and those are places that are supposed to be sacred.
You know, people don't respect living Black people, they're not going to respect dead Black people.
Yeah.
The other thing is, as that cuts us to heart, any of us who have degrees from UW-Madison have walked up and down Bascom Hill, have walked over graves of Native people. So it still takes place. It's taking place right here in this community, right here in our city on UW-Madison's campus.
Well, and the whole issue with Indian mounds.
Yes, sir.
They're just wiped out.
Definitely.
So closing thought for each of you, 10 years from now, what do you want to be talking about if you came back to talk about economic development?
How good does tequila taste on the beach? No, in West Africa.
You know, I would hope that we'd be talking about the disparity gap is gone and brown and Black kids are doing just as well as anybody else, and that some of the issues that we continue to fight about today, that we're not fighting about them anymore, and that we don't pay as much attention as race because things are more equalized. Now, I know that's a pipe dream, given the fact that, you know, where this country's headed right now.
Thank you. Thank you. So you all have about, we might have time for one more question. Anybody have one more? We have like 3 minutes. You got a quick one? Oh, that hand went up first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to shout out to the Urban League. I'm originally from Akron, Ohio, and my son had gotten a degree in accounting, and he was getting no help from the local college job service, and he was getting these no job offers, and he went to an Urban League job fair. And he had a counselor who was retired military, and told him how to get, apply for a federal job. Well, he is managed now, he is the lead accountant at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in Washington, D.C. It's actually Rockville. But it started with somebody who was willing to listen to him and give him some help. And that was the Urban League.
Thanks for sharing that
That's
story.
good.
So Dr. Anthony built the hub and Dr. G is building the Center for Excellence. So Carrie, what are you gonna build? Actually, the question is, there's a lot of energy over the last decade that have made these things happen and really energized the respective communities involved. Where do you see that energy going? I don't imagine you're gonna do another building in the next 5 years. Where do you see that energy going to continue what's been begun?
Yeah, so I'm hoping that these won't be the last bold buildings that you see come up. I'm hoping that we have inspired the next generation of developers and visionaries, African-American young people that's going to take the mantle and not just think about, how we can transform South Madison to a renaissance, but how we can help transform Madison and this region in general. So I'm looking to pass the mantle on at some point to some young visionary to come forward to say what's next. We know for us in the Urban League, whether it's me or someone else, the next thing for us is to make sure that there's affordable housing. And we know that we're landlocked here in Madison, so it has to be affordable condominiums. So I'm looking to champion that and maybe pass that on to someone a lot younger.
With us, we're fortunate to sit on 6 acres. So it's a piece of property that Fountain of Life Church has owned for about a decade. So down the road, there's an opportunity to expand parking on our site. We could down the road, take the church down and build a new structure where maybe the church uses one floor or one level of it, but there could be businesses or housing that's not on our immediate project, but because we are right up, because we have space, there's more that we could do to focus on that. One of the things that I need to concentrate on, unfortunately, we both do, is sustainability. And so once you build a building, we want to make sure the lights are on and we've got staff. And so that hunt continues. And so I think for me, growth is not necessarily vertical, but what do we put in place right now? What types of financial planning, what type of endowment do we put in place so that it spins off enough income so that it takes the financial fundraising burden off of my successor?
So one of the things that we've been able to do in that regard is to bring on fair or market tenants and lock them into 10-year leases and 5-year leases. So for the next 5 to 10 years, we're good. We got the DMV in there. We've got the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation in there. We have WIBIC in there and other folks. We have
Summit.
more, again, you have Summit Credit Union. So but we have more financial support in that building than any other building in the state. So we're good, for the next 5 to 10 years for that enterprise.
That's brilliant. What's interesting is that Dr. Anthony and I have, we've become developers. I mean, your work was in the state government, deputy director of, deputy secretary of transportation, worked out in ministry and nonprofit work. And after raising close to $100 million, each, in future, the broader community will still call us community leaders, which means we're not even business leaders. We're called community leaders because we're Black and we lead human service organizations, but yet show me an average white, and I just use a male for this, white businessman that's raised 30 million, that's called a community leader. He's called a heck of a good businessman and gets to speak at Rotary. But we raise tens of millions of dollars and we're good community leaders. And so I just wanted to put that out there that our roles have really morphed into the area of of development, which folks who are in human services rarely experience.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because one of the things that happened when I first came on at the Urban League, I saw the Urban League as a social service organization. Now I and others see the Urban League as an economic development organization, not just a social service organization. And so we're doing workforce development, but we're teaching people how to fish by giving them homes and giving them assets. But now we're developing businesses as well. So we're, helping transform the economics of this city.
And we're trying to bring such a cultural sense of belonging that we stay around long enough to pool our money so that we buy the pond, so we can hire people to fish for us, so we can have enough food for the day. So we want to partner so that we can have ownership and stake in all of this.
And we've got this triangulation effect going on where we think that we're having a renaissance in South Madison, where we're changing the culture. We're a destination for the city of Madison.
Sure.
When we look at Dr. Karen Menendez, what she's done with Centro, you look at what Dr. G has done with the Center of Black Excellence, look at what Jack Daniel has done. So we've created this triangulation aspect. So when people come, they ought to be coming to see, what we have here. A couple of years ago, I got a call from our former governor, Jim Dahl, and he says, hey, the La Follette Institute is trying to recruit this African-American professor at the Institute, but his wife has read all the articles about what's going here, and she's read the article about the tale of two cities. She's read the article that Madison is the best place to live for white people, but it's not too good for Black people. And he said, so could you show her somewhere? I said, this was before we started working on our projects. And I'm like, yeah, I can take her, show her, Fountain of Life. I can show her Mount Zion, but there's not a whole lot of capital assets that I could show her in this community. But now we can show her some different places. We have something to show for.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for your presentations. I'm always happy. This is a good time. I've seen the center's video, so thank you for showing that.
Yes.
This time with music. I've had the pleasure of working in the hub with Ms. Camille on a youth entrepreneurship class it ended up being young girls. It was a pilot. We talked often about some of the policy that was going through the state, and a lot of it having to do with Black infant and mother mortality. Worked kind of closely with the Harambe Center for a while, just learning about the history of the work that they do, and then also the missing and murdered Black women and girls policy bill that did not pass yet, and hopefully we can get some more energy behind that. But my question for you is sort of, in another session, your sister was naming that Black women tend to not be funded for a lot of their development projects around these kinds of issues. And I was kind of curious what you all are doing through either those centers or in your own personal lives to support that.
Yeah, so we gave out 5 grants for $50,000. And 3 of those grants went to women enterprises. We give out micro grants, and again, a lot of those are women-owned enterprises. For the businesses that are in the hub already, the beauty school is a woman-owned business, and then the coffee shop is a partnership between two spouses. But women are high on our priority. Roxy Hintz has CEOs of Tomorrow. She's a woman, right? And they're moving into our space, and we're doing whatever we can do to help with the build out and the financing. So we are strong supporters of women and African American women, and that's not going to change. And we've got more resources now that we expect to have more women step forward. In most of our programs, in our G Alpha and our G Beta training programs, women lead the way, so women are strong in our work.
And my commitment is that I taught my sister what she knows. No, but she's constantly in my ear reminding me half of our C-suite at the center are Black women. And we know that that's very key because of what we know is true about the demographics of our community and who's at the helm and who's leading and raising. So we're being very sensitive to that in leadership. As I mentioned, the folks who put together our first campaign to make sure that we got our first Black donations were folks who, for Black women who saw this and embraced it. So I think that this is very important. We want to be a part of like the hub of turning this tide. There's a beautiful space inside our center that's dedicated just to Black women empowerment, that all the programming, book groups, economic development, all of that will run through there, but there's space just to focus on what we have ignored, not just focus on Black women because they've asked for it, but what society has ignored. And historically, what has been about the advancement of the Black community has largely been male focused. And so we have some culpability in that as well. So part of our effort is to make sure that we have space to assure that we don't do that, and that it's not just a place where women can congregate and do their programming, but think through concepts that will shape our city, our county, and even our own organization. It's a great question.
I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the role of transportation in getting people to this wonderful nexus in South Madison. We know that we have, the Beeline we're hoping to have federal funding for. But if we don't, and that project is delayed or not as useful as it could be, can you talk about the impact that that will have on what you're doing in South Madison?
So I'll start out with that since I'm the former Deputy Secretary of Transportation, right?
Yes, elaborate.
So I do think that the north-south route is going to happen. The mayor has shown exceptional commitment to making it happen. One of the good things about the hub is that we've got the DMV, the Division of Motor Vehicles, in the building. And that makes a difference that people have adequate transportation. And for the hub, it's important that we have large groups of people able to get to those businesses. And that was one of the reasons that we brought in the DMV, because we know on Mondays and Wednesdays, they have 100 people per hour, coming into the facility. So already we've changed the traffic pattern. You can hardly make it's not my fault though, but you can hardly make a left turn on Park Street now because of the traffic that it's created. And so we understand that for our projects to be successful and for businesses along Park Street as they continue to develop to be successful, people have to have a way to get there. Right now, we have the transfer point there. That transfer point is going to go away, and they'll hopefully bus rapid transit real soon will be running up and down Park Street. But there's going to be more development because there'll be people who are in affordable housing along there, because the mayor expects to put 400 to 600 housing units there. Between Park Street and what's that one street the Air Church is on? Badger Park. Yeah. And so there'll be a lot more density, in there. So it's going to be important that we have transportation coming through. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And there's going to be a need for parking. And so we got the parking facility going up. The city committed to, it started out as $10 million, but I hear it's up to maybe like $15 million now to finish that facility. But they haven't wavered, from their commitment. The mayor believes in the work that we're doing because they gave us the land for free. The county gave us $2 million to build the facility. So there's a commitment to transform and be a part of this transformation. So transportation is critical, and I don't think they're going to run away from that. They have to find the money to put, the bus rapid transit there.
I have a slightly different take on that.
Okay.
No, I agree with what you're saying. But a different response. What I find in Madison, that when we talk about good space for Black people, we start talking about transportation. I've been in this community for 50 years, and Black people get everywhere they want to be. Barbershop, Woodman, the mall. And so we get around. We do get around. So I'm not saying we don't have to worry about transportation. For us, parking is way more of an issue. But I just want to say, Black people are industrious, and we get around this city. And I talked to very few people like, I would go there, but I don't know how to get there. I mean, we have cars and bikes, and we drive. And so we're going to draw a very diverse group of folks, a group of Black people, because there's no monolith. And so even the folks who may find themselves economically strapped, many of them are still driving. So people are going to find ways to get to us. If it's problematic, we'll find ways to do that. But we are going to be such a destination that people are going to find ways to get there. So I don't think we have to worry from a definite or a deficit perspective of how do Black people get to South Madison. I think if it were McFarland or Far West or someplace, we get around and we have a decent transportation system. But people are going to get to us, and they have gotten to us and that site for almost the last 40 years. They'll continue to do that.
Yeah. And I think the brand of the center and the hub and Central Span and all those things are going to be so strong. And that, people just want to come and see them. And right now we're experiencing that now with the hub. It's packed, for our events, it's packed. We have fireside chats there. We have different types of receptions. Already we've had over 600 events in the space. And that was at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So it's packed.
And they get there.
Okay, I have a question. You both have been in Madison for a long time, and my question is, can you talk a little bit about the value of the Black dollar in Madison, maybe what you've seen over the past couple of years, and maybe the future hopes of the value of the Black dollar in Madison?
That came across like y'all both are old. Tell me about Madison. No, that's seeking
wisdom, just seeking wisdom.
But he is.
The same age. You want to go or you want?
I think that there's a lot of value to the Black dollar, which is why white commerce wants it. A lot of that, but in our community, we use it, but we go in other places. I think one of the downsides, and it's interesting, my daughter's generation, siblings like late 20s, maybe 30, they challenge our generation. I'm 61. My parents wanted integration, not for the sake of losing Black culture, but for the sake of not losing Black lives because they wanted to vote or buy homes. And so they pushed for integration. Because I've always been able to go to integrated schools, I didn't notice the loss of Black culture and the shutting down of Black business. I use for an example that when Jackie Robinson moved into the major leagues, the Negro Baseball League closed within 5 years because the white newscaster stopped telling his story and started in the Negro League and started telling it in the major league. And so we found that as we had more integration, we could take our dollars anywhere because people might not like Black, but they love green. We could take our dollars and they accepted them as long as we didn't live in those neighborhoods and try to work in those neighborhoods. The younger generations ask us, what the heck was y'all thinking? Why'd y'all get rid of our businesses? Why did y'all? So I grew up in Madison with one Black barber shop. You sit there for like 2 days before your barber gets to you. So we have to go and reclaim things because it's sort of changed. But this generation, the younger generation, they're highly entrepreneurial. They ask lots of questions. They question authority and leadership. But what they want to know is, why did you sell out the Black community in order to go to Westtown? Like, what was y'all thinking? And so part of our work has got to be reclaiming that. And so I think it was inadvertent. I don't think Black people just took their money, just threw it up and just say, let me go shop at TJ Maxx. I think as we got more access and we had an option, it wasn't just shopping at the mom and pop on the corner, but we could go to a meat shop or butcher in other places in other sides of town, maybe with different cuts of meat because they had larger volume. Inadvertently, a lot of our businesses started shutting down because we didn't support them as much, and that hurt our community. And so I feel that we have a responsibility and an onus to build that back up and not be apologetic about wanting to be around our culture, celebrating, being around our people. It doesn't mean we're being reverse racist and don't like other people. There's just something very powerful about being ourselves. But we have to own the fact that the trade-off for being accepted is that we stop supporting our own businesses the way we used to when we had no other choices. We now have got to value that and make sure we get to Rasta Barista. We got to get to these places. We got to get to the center. We got to buy some of our art, and we got to come to their events. We got to really make that commitment, because now that we have options, we have to think about it now, because it's not a given that Black dollars come to Black businesses. But when that was the case, Black businesses were flush with cash. I mean, like Dr. Martin Luther King didn't just get up and just have a dream. Black people funded that dream. Churches and funeral homes and barbershops, they funded his movement because Black people put Black dollars in Black businesses. We got to rectify that, because if we don't have that strong economic base, then we're not going to have a strong political base. And then we're not going to have people lobbying for us. And we're going to be standing around asking for handouts. So I feel that we've got to rethink the power of the Black dollar and have a global agreement between Black people that we're going to support Black.
Time for one more question.
But let me respond to this a little bit before we go, and I'll be brief. But I think that if we're intentional with the Black dollar, we can make a difference. And I've seen that with the businesses that are emerging in the Black Business Hub. Rasta Barista, the first day they opened up, the lines were out the door, right? The second day that we had the mini market on Saturdays, 3 of the food vendors sold out halfway through. And so when Black people are intentional about putting their dollars in Black spaces, it makes a big difference.
And when white customers put their dollars in Black spaces, that helps to accelerate our ability to help our causes as well.
Yeah, and because it wasn't just Black people in line at Rasta Barista, and it wasn't just Black people in line getting the catfish. It was people in general coming to the hub wanting that flavor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anthony and Dr. G, for your excellent work and your dedication to Dane County. This is fantastic.
Thank you.
Perhaps the greatest benefit of your work is just what you said, the spin-off, the potential spin-off of businesses and the potential spin-off of nonprofits that can directly relate and serve the people that need to be served.
Yes.
What's your ideal vision for business growth in the future, and also nonprofit development and so forth?
Well, I'll tell you this. So the Black Chamber had a cubicle at the Urban League. Now they've got a big office. Women's Health had a cubicle at the Urban League, and now they're big. Sabrina Madison had a cubicle there. Brandy Grayson. So we've launched a bunch of nonprofits from our space. We expect that the Black Business Hub is going to put that on exponential, terms, not just for Black businesses, but for nonprofits and all else. I think that we're headed towards, even though federally and nationally, things look crazy, I think Madison gets it in a way that many other places don't. And so we're at a place now, again, where we can really put, some of these opportunities on steroids. And so we have to realize that the time is now, and that as much as things look grim, I think the opportunity is now to kind of really continue to push ahead, with some of our enterprises, and the future looks bright.
Thank you so much.
Work with local business or statewide business leaders, national VCs. I want to create funds so that we can support nonprofits, because the most difficult part about nonprofit work is funding its sustainability. So one of the things I want to do is find ways to grow funding base so that we can support nonprofits and lead them towards sustainability.
Well, thank you, Dr. Anthony and Dr. G. Great session, and thank you all. So we can just give them a round of applause.